Hold up. Wait a minute, Trump administration. The Supreme Court has unfortunately allowed you guys to, for now, meaning temporarily, put your guys' illegal, unconstitutional, unlawful, wrongful deportation, transgender ban into effect for now. Well, why do I say for now, ladies and gentlemen? Let's take a look at this brand new reporting by The Hill and find out. Take a look, ladies and gentlemen, and listen to the article by The Hill. Correction.
Supreme Court allows Trump administration to enforce trans military ban, by Brooke Migden and Ella Lee. The Supreme Court on Tuesday allowed President Trump's administration to begin enforcing a ban on transgender troops serving openly in the military, undermining 2 lower court decisions and handing a victory to an administration that has broadly sought to restrict transgender rights. The Justice Department asked the justices in an emergency application last month to lift a Seattle area federal judge's nationwide injunction blocking the policy, which Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth put forward following an executive order Trump issued days into his second term. The justices paused the injunction until the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit rules on the Trump administration's appeal, and the High Court has the chance to consider whether to hear the case. The court's 3 liberal justices publicly dissented. The Trump administration's policy states that transgender individuals cannot meet the rigorous standards needed to serve, and allowing their participation threatens military readiness and unit cohesion, an argument long used to keep marginalized groups, including Black and gay people and women, from serving in the military. A 2016 RAND Corporation study commissioned by the Pentagon found that allowing trans people to serve had no negative impact on unit cohesion, operational effectiveness, or readiness. Solicitor General D. John Sauer wrote in last month's application to the Supreme Court that the policy is materially indistinguishable from the one Trump ordered during his first term, which the Supreme Court enabled him to enforce. That policy banned transgender service members, but made an exception for some who had already started to transition, in line with rules put in place during former President Obama's administration. The new policy makes no such exception, deeming any service member with a current diagnosis, history, or symptoms of gender dysphoria unfit for military service. The department must ensure it is building one force without subgroups defined by anything other than ability or mission adherence. Efforts to split our troops along the lines of identity weaken our force and make us vulnerable, Hegseth wrote in a February memo to senior leadership at the Pentagon. In the same memo, Hegseth ordered the Defense Department to pause gender-affirming medical care for trans service members. A federal judge later struck down Hegseth's restrictions as unconstitutional, and the Pentagon resumed care last month. U.S. District Judge Benjamin Settle granted a preliminary injunction blocking Hegseth's policy, preventing transgender service members from openly serving from taking effect nationwide in March. He found that any hardship claimed by the government because of his ruling pales in comparison to those imposed on transgender service members and qualified accession candidates. A panel of judges on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit declined to pause the injunction while the Trump administration appeals that decision, prompting the government's emergency request to the justices. In a separate lawsuit, U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes called Hegseth's policy soaked in animus and also blocked it from taking effect nationwide. Another appeals court temporarily halted her order as it weighs whether to grant a longer pause. 32 transgender service members and recruits, plaintiffs in the separate challenge, wrote last week in an amicus brief that allowing the administration to enforce its ban on trans-military service would cause transgender troops reputational, professional, and constitutional harm that can never be undone. Responding to the administration's application to the Supreme Court, attorneys for 7 transgender active duty members wrote last week that the new policy materially differs from the one Trump initiated in 2018, which lacked the animus-laden language of the new policy. An unprecedented degree of animus towards transgender people animates and permeates the ban. It is based on the shocking proposition that transgender people do not exist, they wrote. Along with other recent executive orders targeting transgender people for opprobrium and discrimination, the ban claims that having a gender identity that differs from one's birth sex is a falsehood or false claim. Trump's January 27 executive order, titled Prioritizing Military Excellence and Readiness, states that adopting a gender identity inconsistent with an individual's sex conflicts with a soldier's commitment to an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle, even in one's personal life. A man's assertion that he is a woman and his requirement that others honor this falsehood is not consistent with the humility and selflessness required of a service member, reads the order, one of several to deny the existence of trans, non-binary, and intersex people. Other orders issued by Trump during his first weeks in office aim to ban transgender athletes from girls' and women's sports teams and end federal support for gender-affirming care for children and teens up to 19 years old. An executive order issued on his first day back in office proclaims the government recognizes only 2 sexes, male and female, and broadly prevents federal spending on what Trump and his administration have called gender ideology.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is an unfortunate but yet sad temporary legal, if you will, legal loss for the rule of law in the Constitution and democracy, according, at least for now, ladies and gentlemen, as stated in the article. For now, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for today's legal breaking reporting analysis video. If you did enjoy this legal breaking analysis video, ladies and gentlemen, please firstly like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Secondly, if you want to make sure you're always up to date on all the things legal breaking reporting wise on the side of politics, please hit the bell icon that is right next to the subscribe button down below and hit the all notifications option. It does not cost anything. It's completely free of charge. Thirdly, if you guys would also like to stay up to date on all the things legal breaking reporting wise on the side of politics, please follow me on my social medias that'll be linked down below, along with the link to this very important news article. Fourthly, ladies and gentlemen, please help me reach and achieve the goal of 160 plus subscribers. The reason why I am saying 160 plus subscribers, ladies and gentlemen, is because right after we reach and achieve the goal of 160 subscribers, we have more subscribers to reach and achieve right after we reach and achieve the goal of 160 subscribers. Fifthly, and last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, Please stay positive. Please stay safe, even though I know it's at times hard for you guys. It's even hard for me at times to stay positive during these unfortunate, dark-induced times by the Trump administration, Trump regime. And know that justice will prevail on the correct side of the law, eventually, despite Donald Trump's illegal, unconstitutional executive orders, regime, and administration's behaviors. And I will talk to you guys in the next legal breaking reporting